And so good evening and welcome back to our program. It's Astronomy by the Bay here on YouTube. And with me tonight I have RASC members Paul Owen and Mike Powell. And Mike is in St. John this evening and Paul is in Hampton. Say good evening, guys.
Good evening, guys.
Hello. Okay, it's going to be one of those nights. Hang on a sec, so let's get us back to our live feed. And we're going to just show here, first of all, where we're starting out. So tonight's show is going to be basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the moon because pretty well our skies are getting clouded out again for another Sunday night here in St. John. This is kind of unusual for us, but here we are. So we do have a nice bright moon available for viewing tonight. And our moon right now is sitting up in Cetus, just below Pisces. And our moon is at a, if I click on the moon here, we'll see that the moon is at a waxing gibbous phase. So it's waxing when it's getting larger in our sky, and it's waning when it's getting smaller. And now it's larger than, I'll call it half the moon in the sky, so larger than first quarter moon. So we're into a waxing gibbous phase, coming up to full moon here in a few days' time. So it's at about 89% right now, and it's about 390-some thousand kilometers away. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have Paul is going to bring up an image of the moon, live image right now. And then what we're going to do is move over to Mike after Paul's talk on the moon. And we're going to move over to Mike, and Mike is going to show us a view of his observatory and how he built it. So he has a slideshow presentation prepared on from the ground up, and how you build a home observatory with a roll-off roof as well. So, and that's where we'll go from there, and then maybe later on, if we have enough time, we'll swing back over to Stellarium again, and we'll try to bring up a little bit of a view of what's coming up in the night sky over the next week or so, especially the nice dance of the planets that's happening in our southwestern sky right now in the early evening with Venus and Jupiter. And then in our morning sky, we still have Mercury and Mars. So hopefully we'll get to those that part of the talk as well. So with that, Paul, I'm going to go back to you now. I'm going to get you to share your screen, if you would, please.
All right. Bear with me one second here. There you are.
There's our beauty moon. So good evening, Rob Shubop. That's a cool name. Okay. And Karim, hi. Good evening. Good to have you on here. And John Schmidt, welcome. So we're going to watch the comment section. Right now I've got a laptop up running, of course, with the program online, and I'm watching the YouTube at the same time. So we're just going to try to get a little bit relaxed here and talk a little bit about what we're looking at. So again, we've got a waxing gibbous phase moon, about 89% illuminated tonight, with some cloud cover. If you look really closely, or you may see some cloud cover passing in front of the moon, and that's going to continue. That's why we're only able to offer the moon here tonight. The skies are getting a little bit worse. We're going to have some heavy rains here in the next couple of days, so this is the view that we've got. So Paul, can you give us a little bit about how you're capturing this right now?
Okay, so what I'm using to capture this is a small little camera that I typically would use to take pictures of the moon or the planets. And it's just a little ZWO, what they call 120 mono camera. And the reason this mono is because I use a filter reel with it to get the colors. But so that's why you're seeing the moon in this color. Because there is some color on the moon. But we're going to show it to you in black and white. So I'm just using that little camera through my 105 millimeter refractor. And so it's just about the perfect size to get that moon just fill on the screen.
Nice, yeah. It does look awesome there tonight for sure. Hi, Ann. Nice to have you on here. And Irene, good evening. And Dave, hey. So if you have any comments or questions along the way too, but remember this is a live broadcast, so we're watching comments as they come in. So if you have any questions about the moon or comments and maybe times that you've looked at the moon yourself through a telescope or binoculars, or even at the eyepiece with the telescope with me or someone else, please give us a shout out here. So what do we know about the moon? I guess, well, we know that the moon is about 4.5 billion years old. It's about the same age as the solar system. And there were three leading theories, really, about how the moon was developed. One of them was that it may have been a captured moon. And a second one was that the moon and the Earth formed at the same time. But the leading theory right now was that a Mars-sized body, which we call Theia, crashed into the early Earth when we were still in the molten state. And the material, actually the collision almost destroyed us, but the material was passed up into space, and eventually it orbited us and coalesced to form our moon. And I guess we know that mostly because of the 800 and some pounds of moon rocks that the Apollo astronauts brought back in the late 60s and early 70s. There's a little bit of cloud cover popping in there now. So you can see Paul's making some adjustments to the gain and exposure here to try to keep us with the moon view here for at least 15 minutes or so. Lots of echo on Mike and Paul's audio. Sounds like we're hearing audio from more than one source, perhaps. Yes, someone mute their mic. Not sure where that's coming from. Mike, Paul, you still there?
There I am now. I muted my microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Okay, so hopefully that's a little clearer, guys. Audio's better now. Just asking to see. Wind really picking up here near Point La Pro. So we've tried muting the mics. Maybe that's helping a little bit. This is the thing about going live, I guess, is sometimes we get into a little bit of an issue. So. So the moon is about 390,000 kilometers away tonight, which is about 1.25 seconds as far as light time goes. So the image that we're seeing right now of the moon, of course, the moon is just reflected sunlight back at us. The image that we're looking at is actually about 1.5 seconds old. It takes that long for sunlight to travel through space and back to our eyeball. Still getting an echo, Dave says. Not sure where we're getting that from.
Okay. My mic was muted, and Paul's mic was muted, so if I mute it again, see if it makes a difference.
Okay. Yeah, okay. It's saying it's coming from Mike and Paul. Well, this is one of the things that doesn't seem to give us a problem when we're practicing ahead of time, but seems to be when we go live sometimes this ends up happening. I'm going to make sure that it's muted here on the other laptop. It is.
We make sure we mute the YouTube signal as well.
Yeah, I have that muted as well. There. We've muted that as well on the live feed, so that might be bringing something back through as a feedback. But Paul, what can you tell us about your early experiences viewing the moon?
There we go. I'm back.
There you go back.
I just got back from the moon. And I was just taking a little space trek.
Nice, good for you.
You know something? When I was young, I used to always look at the moon when we were driving in the car. And of course, you know, when you're young, girls in the back seat, and you're supposed to be looking out, I guess, looking for cows or something to keep your parents quiet, or keep us quiet, keep them happy. But in any event, I always saw Wile E. Coyote in the moon.
Really?
And so if you look at this dark area and this dark area here, that always reminded me of his big ears and his face looking down, and he's hunched over. So that always looked like that to me. But then somebody pointed out the rabbit, and then there's a million other things on there. So
yeah, there's.
Yeah, but that was kind of my first experience looking at the moon and trying to figure stuff out.
Cool. Yeah, I never get tired of looking at the moon. The moon and Saturn are probably the two targets that I enjoy the most, and it seems to be the one that the people that come to visit the telescope enjoy the most as well. Saturn, of course, with its magnificent rings, and the moon is always changing, And no matter how many times we stare at these features that we see now, they just seem like it's the first time all over again. So these large dark patches that we're witnessing here now we call these Maria. This one here is the Sea of Crises, or Mare Crisium. That's about the same size as New Brunswick, Canada, about 550 kilometers in diameter. And these Maria are ancient volcanic plains. So back when the moon was first being formed, the moon was bombarded heavily with lots of asteroids and space debris, and these large ones here were caused by that. They actually impacted the moon, and they would bring up some lava from underneath the crust of the moon and bring it up to the surface, and then these large pools of lava would end up cooling down, and they would darken, and then they would lead into these large Maria that we see there. So there's most of the Maria on the moon are on the near side, and that's the side that we're looking at. So there's really no dark side of the moon. Dark Side of the Moon is a really popular Pink Floyd album. I still got it, but this is the near side, and the other side is the far side of the moon. So, and we always see the same side of the moon as well. The moon is in synchronous rotation with the Earth, meaning that the moon does rotate on its own axis, but it rotates on its own axis at roughly the same speed as what it does as it goes around us, around our planet. So that's why we always see the same face of the moon here. And
so it's showing two nice craters tonight. Maybe you can let us know about those.
About Copernicus.
Here.
So that's Copernicus sitting in there. Yeah.
Right here. Yeah.
I'm just going to flip through a few little notes that I have here.
Oh, you have your YouTube muted, correct?
I have YouTube shut right off.
Okay.
And is there still comments about an echo there, Mike? Or
Yeah, that slight delay, about a fraction of a second or so, but there's still some echo in there.
okay, we might have to work on that before next week. But
Maybe if I talk slow enough, I can catch up to
catch
myself.
up to that echo.
We all do the Forrest Gump thing.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that.
It's also kind of nice to see when you're looking at the moon with this type of a view, the ejecta ray that comes off of Tycho. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You can see that.
So that's about 108 million years old, we believe Tycho is. And there was some cool talk a while back that they thought that was actually caused by a large asteroid that actually split into two. And one part hit the moon, and the other part hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico there, just off the coast of Mexico, and led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. But I think they proved that theory wasn't right. So back to Copernicus there. Copernicus is a lunar impact crater located in the eastern Oceanus Procellarum. So that's this large black area that we see here all around Copernicus. It's called Oceanus Procellarum simply because they thought this was an ocean. So back when Galileo was looking at the moon, he looked at all these areas and he thought they were seas or oceans. So that's why they get the names of Sea of Tranquility, the Sea of Crises, the Sea of Storms, that kind of thing, and the Ocean of Storms. So that's this one here, Oceanus Procellarum. It's the largest Maria on the moon, of course. And this Copernicus typifies craters that are formed during the Copernican period, and it has a very prominent ray system extending out from it there. Copernicus is visible using binoculars, and it's easily located slightly northwest of the center of the moon's Earth-facing hemisphere. South of the crater is Mare Insularum, and to the south-southwest is the crater Reinhold. North of Copernicus are the mountains Carpathus, they're called, which lie at the south of the edge of Mare Imbrium. And the circular rim of Copernicus there is actually as a discernible hexagonal form. Wow, all these big words tonight. With a terraced inner wall. So it has terraced inner walls. In Copernicus, that means that there are basically slopes and then stops, and then it terraces all the way down to the floor. Copernicus, there's a central peak there as well. It actually consists of 3 isolated mountains that rise about 1.2 kilometers above the floor of the crater. And these peaks are separated from each other by valleys, and they form a rough line along an east-west axis. The crater rays extend out there from about 800 kilometers across the surrounding mare, and overlying rays from other craters, Aristarchus and Kepler, which are the other two there. There you go, Paul, thanks. The rays are less distinct than the long linear rays extending from Tycho. Instead, they form a nebulous pattern with plumy markings on them. And that's a little bit about, and the Apollo 12 mission actually landed south of Copernicus on the mare basalts of Oceanus Procellarum, or the Ocean of Storms. And they were believed to have been in the path of one of the crater's rays. So they brought back samples of that area as well. When they brought back the samples from the crater rays, the results were inconclusive, but they thought they were about 800 million years old. And Copernicus itself was actually a possible landing site for the Apollo 20 mission. Of course, we only got to Apollo 17, but that was a possible landing site for Apollo 20.
I just wanted to mention
the audio. I think I got the audio figured out. If everybody just plugs one ear, then you'll only hear one voice at a time.
I like it. So does it matter which ear, Mike, or no?
It depends on who you want to listen to, I guess.
I was going to make mention why the picture seems to be swimming around a lot, almost like looking through water in a brook.
Right.
And right now there's an awful lot of moisture in the air. And, there's always a certain amount of air movement anyway that we got to look through. And the more that you blow something up, make it larger, then the more this atmospheric distortion is visible. So for those who are wondering why it's kind of shrinking in and shrinking out and so on, it's basically us looking through the atmosphere at the moon. This isn't happening on the moon, but it's just the illusion that's created with certain sea conditions.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm just looking at comments here on YouTube. They're saying that maybe I should try to mute my mic when we're talking, so I'm not sure if I can do that. I get 2 apps that are using my mic right now. And I think I can. Yeah, I'll give that a try next go. So,
Okay.
So a little bit about Tycho there. We're into Tycho there as well right now. Tycho's, of course, the prominent lunar impact crater. We can see this when the moon is full and very, very clear, very pronounced, standing out there. Looks like the bottom of an orange, I guess, or the top of an orange, depending on how you look at the orange. Tycho is a prominent lunar impact crater located in what we call the southern lunar highlands. So, Paul, it does have the moon pretty well oriented right there. That's on the south end, named after a Danish astronomer, Tycho Brahe. And it's estimated to be about 108 million years old. And Anne does mention on our comments there, if Tycho impact is 108 million years old, Yucatan impact is much younger at around 65 million years old. That's right, Anne. And I think the thoughts were that it may have broken off and then orbited the moon for a while, or been way out in orbit around the moon before it actually impacted the moon. So it would have been 65 million years ago that the impact happened at the Yucatan for sure. I'm seeing a scrolling thing here on YouTube, so I'm hoping we're still live. Might have too many streams going here at once. Anyway, We're still there, guys?
Yep. I was just trying to get a little bit cleaner focus on Tycho.
Sorry, okay.
That's slowing it down pretty good there.
Tycho is replete with craters of various sizes, many overlapping still older craters. And that's the thing about the moon. There are craters on craters on craters and craters within craters. And of course, the ones that are on the outside there that are that don't show as much definition would be the oldest ones, and then the ones with more definition are much younger, of course. It's one of the moon's brightest craters with a diameter of about 85 kilometers and a depth of about 4.8 kilometers. So these craters that we're looking at are very deep. Tycho is a relatively young crater, and it's roughly about 108 million years old, I believe, based on analysis of samples of the crater rays that were recovered during the Apollo 17 mission. So when Apollo 17 went to the moon, they believe they landed very close to the crater rays and brought back some samples. Of course, the moon's surface is covered with this material called basalt, too. It's very fine powder. When Neil Armstrong was coming down, I remember that specifically when he was coming down the ladder on Apollo 11 and looked down at the surface of the moon, he said that it reminded him of a very fine powder, almost like a talcum powder. And that is what the moon is on its surface. Very, very fine powder, but texture of maybe powdered concrete. And it looks like worn asphalt, though, when you're up close to it, apparently. So, and this powder got all through their uniform or their outfits, and it was everywhere, all through the capsule, and they really dragged a lot of it back, a lot more than 805 pounds, probably about as much moon dust as they brought back with moon rocks. And this is basically because the moon gets pulverized by billions of tiny micrometeorites all day long and 24 hours a day. And that's simply because most of the ones that would burn up in Earth's atmosphere as they travel down through Earth's atmosphere, they burn up. There's nothing on the moon to stop these ones. There is no atmosphere on the moon, of course. So they hit the moon at their full speed, and any rocks that are out on the surface of the moon have been pulverized over billions of years. So that's why there's so much dust on the moon. Of course, footprints, though, like Neil Armstrong and the other astronauts left on the moon back in the late 60s, early 70s, they'll remain there for a very, very long time, perhaps billions of years from now, simply because there's nothing for them to disappear, no reason for them to disappear. There's no weather on the moon. There's not like they would be here on Earth. You put a footprint on the beach kind of thing. So, but they will fill in over time. These little tiny micrometeorites will fill in those spaces for sure. Anything else you'd like to add there, Paul or Mike? We're getting to 8:23 now, so pretty well almost time to flip over to Mike's presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another few minutes here, maybe.
Still trying to figure out if there's much echo or not.
Yeah, I'm not able to see comments. Just checking here. They were selling moon samples on eBay at one point. I think they were, Dave. Yeah, there was some stuff that had disappeared. Very pronounced echo. We're still hearing, I guess. So when I'm not talking, I'm going to try to mute my mic, guys.
Okay, I'll try talking just for a minute, and then maybe Dave, if you can chime in. And if Chris is muted now, perhaps, and does my voice sound any different? As we're looking at the moon here, I'm just moving things back and forth, and with this equipment, of course, we can take many different perspectives of the moon, so we can make it quite small and a nice, clear, crisp image like so. And of course, as we make it larger, then we can start to see the airy deformities that are being created by the atmosphere. So that's a nice size right about there for this type of atmosphere. How was that, Dave?
Mike has less echo than Paul. Okay. Still waiting to see a comment come back here.
Okay.
Mike has less echo than Paul, it said. Anyway, we'll carry on.
Okay. All right.
So, Mike, are you ready to offer your presentation? Sorry, Mike, are you ready to offer your presentation?
Yeah, I'm ready to go here. No worries there.
Okay.
If you'd like me to start?
What do you think, Paul?
Oh, sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. We'll come back to the moon maybe if we have time.
Here. Oh, you should see my desktop, hopefully.
Do see your desktop. Yep. Okay, so what Mike's going to offer now? Is a talk about building a home observatory. How we're offering what we're offering right now live through Mike's observatory and through Paul's. And Mike had a plan a few years ago to have something set up in his own backyard so that he could observe the night sky with his own equipment from the comforts of his home. So this is what he's going to present now, is from scratch to finish on how to go about building one of these things. So, Mike, I'm going to mute my mic here in a second so that we try to prevent some of the echo that's happening here. And I'll carry it over to you, Mike.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we had some comments, I guess, on our last program. Someone asked about the observatories themselves, so we talked for a bit and thought it might be a good idea just to quickly go through how I decided to build mine. There's many different plans out there. There's many different types of observatories out there. I decided to build a roll-off roof. It was the simplest method for me, and kind of claustrophobic, so I didn't want a dome where I could only look out through a sliver. I wanted to be able to open the whole roof and see the whole sky. So for me, the roll-off roof was the way to go. Let's see if I can get this thing to work here. So I live in Millidgeville in St. John, which is not the darkest skies that you can get your place to set up an observatory. I got lots of ambient lights around from street lights and some tall lighting from MBTL and some tall lighting coming from the shacks and things like that. So if you look at the screen and watch the mouse, with all this lighting around here, I'm almost dead center of the screen is where my observatory is. And I'll zoom in a little bit. This is my piece of property in my house. And this picture was taken in 1982, before I bought my house, that I decided to build the observatory at the back. So if you look at my backyard, stand from my back deck, I got lots of room back there. And this little bare patch, the very, very back, is where I decided to start building. Oops, go the other way. So the first thing, I went and dug a deep hole. Filled it full. I went down more than 5 feet because I wanted to get past the frost line. Threw in some pieces of rebar. Never poured concrete before, so I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But I made a steel template, and I put 4 pieces of threaded rod, shoved it into the wet concrete, and that was going to be exactly where the holes would line up for my pedestal in the future. I wanted to do the driveway, so I ordered some extra gravel, and I thought I laid some gravel down there in a footprint of a 8-foot by 12-foot shed, and that's where I was going to build the observatory. I spread it out, let it settle for a year, and then started my build. I figured 8-foot by 12-foot is a normal standard size for a backyard shed. It would be good for an observatory. It would give me an 8-foot by 8-foot area to have a scope and a 4-foot by 8-foot area to have a warm room future if I wanted to down the road. And now that I'm working remote, I found out I don't need the warm room anymore, so it just gives me more room in the observatory. There's that snazzy looking guy sitting out there practicing. I wanted to see what the night sky would look like before I put the pedestal in. So, the stranger, or the neighbors were kind of looking around going, what is he doing out there? But it was just basically trying to get a feel for the night sky and if I had to move the shed floor around or not. My pedestal, I went down to a local company, Burke's, they're a machine shop, and I had them build my pedestal. The centerpiece is a 6x6 quarter-inch wall piece of tubing, and then 12 by 12-inch plates on the top and bottom. And I built it fairly high because I wanted to be able to catch lower skies, so my pedestal lifts my scope up almost equal to the height of my roof, which I built it. The walls were 6'6". And again, there's just a pretty shot of the 4 pieces of threaded rod I used to basically balance or center the top plate and get it even. When I put a level on there, I can adjust it from 4 different directions to make sure that it is exactly level. Even though the pedestal itself may not be level, the top plate will be level. There's a pier stuck in the ground, and again, I put a scope on there just to see what my view of the night sky would look like. I was quite pleased with it, so I kept moving forward. At this point, my wife was wondering what I was doing too. But I told her to be patient, it'll all come. This is just a look from the east, and the south, west, and the north. So we proceeded to put walls up. Everything else was fine. They're standard 2x4 walls. They're 6'6" in height. I got a good deal from Home Depot because they had 92-inch 2x4s on sale. There's not many people having use for a 92-inch. And we proceeded to put the 4 walls up. The window I found at the Restore Store. That was a good deal. It's an all-school double-pane window. Total cost $5 at the Restore Store, so I saved money there. Started sheathing the outside. I'm not much for measuring, so I was lucky that everything just fit. I had to put the start for the outriggers to figure out where things were going to go in order to roll the roof off to one side. When I came to my roof, I looked at many different examples and things that I wanted to try. Lots of guys use a piece of channel with, I think it's grocery cart rollers or casters inside. I wanted to stay away from that because I thought the channel would collect snow. There's garage door track. I knew my roof was going to be heavy, really heavy, because I was going to shingle it to make it look like a regular shed. So I thought the garage door track wouldn't be strong enough to hold what I wanted to. And I remembered that I was in a warehouse one time and I saw shelving units that would roll across the floor, and they sat on angle irons with these V-casters. So I got a hold of Storage Systems in Laurinville, and lo and behold, they had V-casters. I bought 10 of them. They hold 1,000 pounds apiece, and with 5 on each side, sitting on top of the angle iron, it'll only roll on and off, and it won't shift left to right. Any snow that lands on the angle iron will fall off. Any ice that builds up just breaks and falls off. So I decided to go strictly with the V-casters and the angle iron. Again, once I put the walls up, you can just see the views all the way around. I got lots of trees in my backyard, so I got to wait till the sky comes to me. And it was time to build the roof. It was basically, I used a 4x4 across the top, 2x4s up against the side. Everything has got 15 screws in it, so it wouldn't come apart, hopefully. And before I decided to sheathe the roof and put the shingles on, I decided I'd roll it back and forth to see if it actually worked, and it did, so I was quite happy. After that, we basically nailed the roof down, and we rolled it off again just to see if it would go with the extra added weight. Seemed to be no difficulties, and it didn't fall off, so I was quite pleased. The door frame and stuff like that, everything was just beefed up double with 4x4s, the extra cross members and stuff to make sure that things wouldn't shift or move. I didn't put it on a concrete pad, so I knew eventually things were going to move around. So it was just all beefed up with extra 4x4s and extra wood. There you can see it before I put the siding on. And it looked good at the time, and it still looks pretty good now, I guess. But wanted to show just some of the support work that's up underneath the roof and where the V-casters go on the angle iron. I learned in the long run not to put wooden stops on the end. There's a fair bit of weight in that roof, and when it hits the wooden stops, they didn't last very long. So I put angle iron on to stop the casters from rolling off the ends of the outriggers instead of using a piece of 4x4. I thought it might move in the wind, so I grabbed a couple of turnbuckles, and that's when I roll the roof closed at night. I flip the turnbuckles up. It takes about 3 seconds, and I bolt them down. But now that I found out after 10 years the weight of the roof, I don't really think I need the turnbuckles anymore. The roof weighs about 900 pounds now. So I added the shingles and stuff, and I added the siding because I wanted it to match the house, of course. That way, people in the neighborhood just thought it was a funny looking shed. I actually had one guy ask me what was going on. I told him I rolled the roof off to cover the barbecue, and I didn't want it to get wet. And another fella asked me, and I just told him that I bought the plans in Newfoundland, and that's how it turned out. So there it is, complete pretty much, and I was ready to put a scope in, make sure the roof rolled off. I had the spare door down in the basement. Since then, I've replaced the door because that was a paper door and it didn't like the outside weather. Now it's a solid wood door. Just the last view there of the roof, open and closed. And a little bit on the inside with the pedestal. That scope isn't there anymore. That's when I first built it, and I was tinkering around out there. That was the first mountain scope that I stuck out there, and I was enjoying the views with that. There it is with the roof open. I purposely put high sides. You can see they come up 6 inches above the angle iron, and that was basically just to keep wind and water and leaves out. And my roof overhangs a foot all the way around on all sides. So instead of making it weather tight, it's basically wind tight. And I put a deck on it only because the house had a deck on it. I kind of wanted it to look like a miniature version of the house. And that's it. That's how she was built.
Nice.
So,
you able to hear me here, Mike?
you get rid of that part.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now, Mike?
Quickly. Yeah, I still hear you.
Okay.
How's my audio coming across? Am I clear?
It's better, I guess.
Seem to think, according to some of the comments, things have calmed down somewhat, so that's good to see.
I think it was. I plugged in my headphones.
This is just a live shot of the observatory now with my CGEM mount that I finally put out there. Since we started doing these live shows, I've gone through 4 different mounts till I was happy with something, and it looks like the CGEM is the one to go with. It's my pride and joy. I usually just take it to star parties, but for what we're doing, I decided I'd put it out in the observatory. I've got an 80mm William Optic APO mounted as the guide scope, and I'm actually using a William Optic 66 as my main scope with a DSLR camera. And like Paul, we both mounted small cameras up on the top to give us a live view of the whole sky. And that's mine. It's called a T7. I bought it on eBay for $100. And that's a live shot of the observatory right now. Of course, my roof is closed because I'm clouded out and I didn't bother opening it tonight. But that's where I go when I need peace and quiet.
So, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could do something different in the build, would you have done anything different now that you've?
I would definitely have made the roof lighter. The roof is a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. I want to put power to it and use a winch, and right now I don't think that the winch I bought is going to be strong enough because the roof is too heavy. It might be just the winter time, but the other night I couldn't get the roof closed by myself. I had to get my son to come out and give me a hand closing it. So if I was going to do something different, I'd put a tin roof on it and make it just that much lighter, get rid of the shingles and everything else.
But the size is good for you. I think yours is 12 by 8.
It's 8 by 12, and it was purposely built that way to give me an 8 foot by 8 foot area for the scope, and then a 4 foot by 8 foot area for a warm room if I was going to build one. But I ended up moving upstairs to the garage and running it remotely, so I didn't need the warm room. Excuse Excuse me.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about it, because I know with mine, mine's not as large as yours, so you have to really be conscious of the real estate that's in there. With yours, you got all kinds of room, so especially now where you don't need the warm room. So if you want to, maybe keep a dog out there or something in the form of a scope that needed, a lot of cool down time, it'd be a great spot for it, really.
Yeah, I've got the extra space. It's a full extra 4 feet. What's yours? 10 by 10?
10 by 10, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an infrared shot you're getting out.
No, that would be the only thing. Would be making the roof lighter so it moves easier. You're getting old. Not the spring chicken it used to be.
So that's an infrared shot, Mike?
That's an infrared shot. Yeah, it's if you went out there right now, you wouldn't see anything except the clock in the corner with the wrong time on it. I didn't bother changing it back after daylight savings time.
Nice, Mike. So you have this all up on a website, right?
That presentation I just quickly showed shows up on the St. John Astronomy Club website. Yeah, and it's down. You can download it as a PDF file actually, or just look at it. But it's all there for free to download.
Yeah, so I should mention that too. Like, we're all members of the St. John Astronomy Club, and our local club meets the first Saturday of every month at 7 p.m. And but we have a fantastic website up. Jim Stewart, a local guy here who's in our club as well, has done an amazing job with our local website. So, and there's all kinds of data there. So you might want to go check that out. It's just sjastronomy.ca. If you go to that page, I think it's down on the left-hand side, Mike's link to his home-built observatory. So if you can't, if the audio was a problem here tonight, we're really sorry about the fact that the audio was giving us some trouble. Once I plugged in my headphones, it seems to have cleared right up, I guess. So that might have been some kind of a loop happening here. But anyway, if you wanted to go back and get more information, yeah, it must be.
Snazzy.
It works with radio face.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I got a real face for radio. Yeah, like that. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned something too while we're talking about faces and so on. We talked last week about people sending in some pictures, and I was hoping, I don't know if any has come in or not yet, but we do encourage anybody who likes to take photographs of the night sky, whether it be through their phone or whether it be through a telescope or anything like that at all, to send them in, because we really enjoy seeing what people's experiences are. And a lot of us, even in our club, have never shot a picture, and a lot of us have taken all kinds. And it's just nice to see that enthusiasm at any level that's coming through. So if anybody's got any pictures, and we would love to post them up here on this channel for you. So I just want to make mention of that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. And thanks, Mike, for that. That was a great presentation and a really nice look at how things are built, and good to see that it's working out for you, for sure. And
it's time you working out. I gotta beef up my arms there so I can move the roof around, or not let my son move out. I'll keep him down in the basement like a mole. He can come up for food and help me to open the roof.
That's a pretty good trade-off.
Gotta work somewhere.
Gotta work somewhere. That's right.
Doesn't work for me.
Well, maybe what I'll do is Paul, have you still got a view of the moon up?
Let me have a look here. I'll take a peek. Yes, I do.
Okay, maybe we'll go back to the moon here again for another few minutes, and then we'll flip back over to Stellarium after, if maybe in the last couple of minutes, just to show what's coming up in the sky.
Okay, let me just set up here.
Yeah, Dave says the What's Up calendar is very handy on the website, and I do encourage anybody to go check that out. It's just sjac.ca or stjohnastronomy.ca, and there are a pile of links on there. Jim's done an amazing job linking other sites as well to our site, and as well, if you have any questions or comments, you can actually leave them there as well on that page. So very happy, very pleased with what we're able to offer on that page. Keeps it, and any current events or any events that are coming up in the future are also offered up there. So anything that we've done throughout the year and anything that we have plans on doing in the next little while. If you're in the St. John local area, or actually anywhere, you can take a look and see what we're doing here locally. There, another great image, Paul. Looks like the sky's cleared up a little bit better.
Yeah, it's cleaning up. It's starting to look much better, actually. A little bit of cloud floating through there, but it's still looking good.
Of course.
If I may,
please.
For 1 second. Just want to let people know that the EP4 Observatory stands for pretty far out.
There you go.
Just in case there was another thought that came to mind.
No other thoughts come to mind. Like, no.
That's perfect.
So live view of our moon again from 395,000 kilometers away, I guess. Again, it's a waxing gibbous moon. And we're just a couple of days, I guess, before full right now. There's some cloud seeming to pop in there now, Paul, a little bit. Of course, the moon, back to some of the facts about the moon. The moon is the Earth's only natural satellite. There's about 190, I think it is now, moons that are discovered within the solar system. I know they just announced recently, just in the last few months, that Saturn had an extra 20 moons. So it's now the king of the planets for moons. And our moon is the 5th largest in the whole solar system. And the average distance to the moon is about 384,000 kilometers. Of course, it orbits us about every 27.3 days. And again, it's in synchronous rotation with the Earth, which means that it rotates at the same rate as it orbits the Earth. Mons Huygens is the tallest mountain on the moon. Yes, the moon does have mountains, and several mountain ranges actually as well. This Mount Huygens is 4.7 kilometers tall, just over half the height of Mount Everest. And again, the side that we see here is what we call the near side of the moon. The other side, the far side, actually the Chinese right now have a small lander on the far side of the moon. And they're exploring the South Pole area, which is probably where NASA is going to end up with their Artemis mission. They're looking at visiting the South Pole of the moon simply because there's probably a better opportunity for water, discovery of water on the South Pole of the moon. We know that there are craters on the South Pole that have never seen sunlight. And you can go to the LRO website, which stands for Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and you can look at some fantastic videos that they have there of the moon. And one of them shows the South Pole and shows a lot of the craters around the South Pole and how it appears that they were never really hit by sunlight at the very bottom of the craters. So there is water on the moon, but it's encapsulated. It's frozen. It's down there pretty deep. But of course, if we can get to the water, it would make us much easier than carrying the water to the moon, and especially the weight considered when we have to blast it off the Earth and take it with us. But also we can take water and break it down into its components, and we could use it for fuel to launch from the moon to other worlds, I guess. That's the idea. So that's probably where we'll be by 2025, is when they're expecting the next humans to land on the moon, and the first woman to land on the moon as well. And of course, our first moon landing was celebrated just this year, when in July the 20th of 1969 was when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took their little lunar vehicle down to the surface of the moon. Great view of the moon there, Paul, tonight.
Yeah, it's looking nice.
Lots more to talk about. We probably should do a whole show on just the moon, maybe. Yeah.
For those two who, down the road may want to see some of capturing pictures. It's really nice for that. So maybe over the next few weeks, we can do something on that, because there's stuff here that that you can do very, very quickly and easily, and get some great results. So even people sitting at home with a little computer and a camera can do some, and get some very, very nice images. So maybe over the next little while we'll talk about that as well.
It'd be great. So yeah, Paul. So if you were out with your DSLR tonight and you wanted to capture this, like what would you suggest for settings?
Well, depends on the telescope that you're using, and depends, of course, on the phase of the moon. So and the lens that you're using. There's a lot of variables for that. But if I was just out with a camera lens, I'd probably use. I'd start with probably like an f9 or an f10 for a setting there. ISO I would probably keep relatively low, probably 400. That's high for daytime photography, but for night photography it's quite low. And then just play with the shutter speed. And then and what you want to do is make sure that you don't get a lot of the whites blown out. I'll show you exactly what I mean. If I take and I put too much exposure on this, watch how things will start getting really, really white, especially in the crater area and in where the ejector rays are. See how it's starting to blow right out?
Right.
So when you have those other settings other than shutter speed set, then you can just play around with shutter speed, and then you'll find that if it's too low, the image will look dark, and if it's too bright, the image will start to blow out. So you'll find, just by rolling that little wheel, you'll find a nice happy medium somewhere in the middle. And then once you've got that, then that would be the correct setting for your imaging for that night.
Cool, thank you. And there again, look at the detail there now. So the craters, like the amazing part about the moon is, I mean, there's so much on the moon to be able to enjoy, right? Not just these large lunar maria and the craters. Like there are over 300,000 craters on the near side of the moon, the side that we're looking at, that are over 1 kilometer or larger. So it's amazing. And it's always and it doesn't matter what your telescope is. Even through binoculars, the moon looks amazing just through binoculars alone. But even through the small 50 millimeter refractor telescopes, the ones that you see in department stores and stuff, you can still get a nice image of the moon. And the moon, of course, is available every month, and we get to watch it go through its phases. And as this line down in the bottom left there of Paul's live image there, that's the terminator line. That's the line that separates day and night of the moon. So usually right along that line, the crater definition is a lot truer because of the fact that these that's sunset on the moon right now. So if you were standing on the moon at that location, you'd see this long shadow being cast behind you, like we do on Earth with our sunsets, and that tends to bring out a lot more detail, so we can see the definition around the walls of the craters. The sun is leaving long shadows inside the walls of those craters, so they really stand out, very, very apparent as that terminator line moves its way across the cycle of the moon throughout the phases throughout the month. And of course now over the next couple of weeks, once it turns full, that line will start to move backwards basically across the moon, or come in from the other side. So it's a waning gibbous moon. So that terminator line will start to reveal more and more features. So you try to follow that terminator line throughout the month if you can. And even with a bright full moon, it's very painful to look at almost through a telescope, because telescopes are designed to collect light. So the image can be very bright and almost painful to look at. You almost need sunglasses. So we use these filters that we put on our eyepieces called polarizing filters, or variable polarizing filters. And we can adjust down the brightness so that we can get a crisper image. And that's what Paul's doing here with his gain settings and things on the live feed. So we're at about 5 minutes away, Paul. Maybe I'll swing back over and just show a little bit about what's going to happen in our evening sky this week.
All right, good enough. Let me just turn this down here. And
nice shots here. Thank you. Okay, so let's maybe flip to Stellarium. Can anybody see Stellarium there now? No, I'm not sharing yet. Let's go to start sharing my screen. There, so I got the two of you guys. And
all
now,
right,
yeah. well, how's that? Can you see Stellarium there now?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, let's take a look, just a quick look around Stellarium, And Stellarium is a free program that's offered. If you go to stellarium.org, you can download this program. I've got it set up for myself here as a destination or a location of St. John, New Brunswick. This is where I am. But all you have to do is bring up the search string once you download the program. It's free to download for a laptop and for a PC. I think it's a couple of bucks maybe on Google Play if you want to have it for a mobile phone. And so from here, I would just type in St. John and then would bring up St. John as a location that I could offer from, and we do. So this is our sky right now from St. John, not the clear sky for sure. This is not a live shot, but it's showing me our time here, and I think my time was just stopped here. That's why. Anyway, there's our sky at 9 o'clock tonight. So let's take it back a little bit to earlier this evening. Let's say around 5:30. And what I wanted to show you was basically what's happening over the next few nights here. If I can get this to stop for a second. And we'll just basically say, so there's 5:30 this evening. And we can see that we have Saturn and Venus right here in our southwestern sky. Nice and prominent. Venus, of course, is the third brightest object in the sky behind the Sun and the Moon, and then Venus. Saturn is quite a bit farther down that route, but it's over 1.4 billion kilometers away. And Venus, of course, is one of the inferior planets, so it's a lot closer. Venus actually is illuminated right now at about 87%. So if you were trying to, I can try to zoom in on Venus, and we'll see that Venus actually has phases like the Moon does. So it's also at a waxing gibbous phase, just about what the Moon is at right now. The Moon's around 89% tonight. Venus is about 87%. So we can see sunlight shining on one side of Venus, and that back part is yet to be lit because of its position relative to the Sun right now. If I zoom back out, but what's really kind of nice over the next few nights, and I know that we've got a couple of cloudy nights coming here in St. John, but we'll still have an opportunity to watch what happens here with the planets, what we call the dance of the planets over the next few nights. So Venus is going to continue to rise, and Saturn is going to continue to set in our southwestern sky. So what's happening here is that we're advancing around the Sun a lot faster than Saturn is. Of course, it takes about 30 years for Saturn to go around the Sun. But as Venus rises, Saturn will set in our early evening sky now, and we'll continue to see these planets get farther apart. But let's go back to our date again here on the 8th, and I think it's on Tuesday night that they become the closest here. So they're about 2 degrees apart, and 2 degrees is about the width of half a degree is about the width of the full moon. So this is about the width of 4 full moons sitting there between them. So nice and close, nice and tight. And would make a spectacular photo if you were into taking night sky shots, or this isn't even a really late night sky, it's only at 5:30. So Sun is just set basically. We have Saturn and Venus here in our sky over the next few nights, so keep an eye out for that over the next few nights for sure. And let's whiz around now to our southeastern sky. I only got about 2 minutes here, so let's take it over to southeast, and we'll go back to our morning sky. And I'll take it back to our right date here. So there's tomorrow morning. Let's make it the right time. And if we look southeast in our morning sky, here we have Mars and Mercury just breaking the horizon right around 6:45. So Mercury is going to be a planet that we're not going to see very much longer because it doesn't drift very far away from the Sun. You can see just shortly after that sunrise comes up. So if you are looking for Mercury, be sure that you're looking directly at Mercury and not at the Sun with your binoculars or telescope. We don't want to see you have any kind of an accident. But we do have Mercury and Mars in our morning sky. So there you've got 2 planets in the evening sky, 2 planets in the morning sky. And over the next number of days, they're going to do a little bit of a dance as well. Mercury's going to drop farther because that's about as high as Mercury will drift away from the Sun. Of course, it's a lot closer to the Sun than we are, or Venus is. Mars is going to continue to be in our sky, though, for a little bit longer yet. As you can see, even though I roll us into January, we still have Mars in our sky. And I think that continues right on to sometime in May or June. And actually, when we get into the end of February there, we can see Jupiter start to come up in our morning sky. So They're setting in the southwest right now, Saturn and Jupiter, but then they're going to return back again to our southeast sky in the morning sky when we get into February. So always some type of a planetary show going on. So just keep an eye out for these targets coming up over the next few months. And guys, I guess that's 9 o'clock for us. So I want to thank everybody for joining back in and joining us on, I guess this is episode 4 now. And we apologize a little bit for our echoing microphone issues there earlier. We'll get that fixed up. I think we probably did, I guess, once I plugged in my headphones. So that might be a trick that we'll consider in the future. But guys, thanks very much for being here again. Paul and Mike, thanks again for a great, awesome show.
Thank you, and thanks for all the people out in YouTube land. And I'd personally like to say thanks to everybody for chiming in for the helping us out with the audio feedback. That was your feedback was better than ours. That's what I can say.
Perfect. So I hope everybody has a great week. I wish everybody clear skies out there, and we'll see you all again next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Take care, folks. Have a great week.
Good night.
So long.